Since their surge in popularity in the late 1980s, video games have been a pivotal part of society. People play them to pass the time, to relish in the adventures of its characters, and make you feel like you have actually achieved something, even if it's only in the video game world. However, for most of us, we feel a sense of regret for playing video games and spending time playing them. This is mainly because, by the end, we didn't really get to achieve anything. We weren't productive. We could have spent the time playing video games doing something else that would have actually contributed to achieving something or getting our work done. But what if I tell you that there is a way to inject the nature of video games into our daily work routine so that any small feat we do gives us the satisfaction of achieving something in a video game, giving us that sweet sense of euphoria after finishing an achievement in a video game? To get a better understanding of this concept, let's figure out why video games are so compelling in the first place. Could I possibly incorporate those gaming mechanics into other aspects of my life to make them more appealing? Most video games are designed such that dopamine is continually released in our brains during the entire game. Many of you probably already know this, but for those of you who don't, dopamine is a neurotransmitter connected to desire and wanting. It's one of the factors that contributes to our desire to engage in specific actions repeatedly and our drive to pursue goals. Dopamine is comparable to a carrot on a stick, you could say. We want to follow the carrot wherever it goes. Additionally, video games are quite adept at continually holding up this carrot in front of you, especially role-playing games or RPGs, which lets you level up and control a fictitious character in an online environment. These kinds of games feature what I like to refer to as a dopamine trail, which makes them highly addictive. In essence, the game contains a variety of elements that repeatedly cause the release of dopamine. In this manner, we avoid being bored and desire to keep playing. I've now determined the 5 essential components that make up this dopamine trail, which you may apply to your own life. But to be clear, I'll use role-playing games as an example because they closely mimic our daily lives. I'll now determine the 5 essential components that make up this dopamine trail, which you may apply to your own life. But to be clear, I'll be using role-playing games as an example because they most closely mimic our daily lives. Not all games contain the elements I'm going to discuss, but they almost all undoubtedly have some of them. So let's examine those components. Let's look at some ways you might influence the dopamine pathway and enhance the appeal of your own regular activities. The first essential component is that you constantly have a specific goal in mind and are aware of what you should be doing. Perhaps you have to slay a dragon or save a princess. It's crucial that you are aware of the direction you must travel. Many of us, though, lack clarity about our goals in daily life, and while other people may choose our course for us, doing so is not the same as choosing the course yourself. Whether it be finishing a marathon, advancing professionally, or writing your own book, your actions have meaning when you are striving towards a certain objective. If not, your efforts will seem pointless. Although defeating a dragon might be the ultimate objective, the game doesn't actually force you to concentrate on that. Instead, it is divided into more manageable sub-objectives that build to the main objective. You might assist the monarch in recovering his stolen jewelry first, then a wizard with his potion-related issue, etc. No matter how insignificant or unimportant it may seem, whenever we do something, we are rewarded with a sense of success, and the more successful we feel, the more we want to stay that way. In essence, this sets up a feedback loop in which even a small amount of success motivates us to keep trying and produces more success. Even though we haven't yet defeated the dragon, we have nonetheless finished a task that points in that direction. And that's all that matters, because if we keep doing that, our main objective will finally be reached. For example, if you intend to create a book, your sub-objectives can be as follows. Make an outline for each chapter. Create the book's cover. 1,000 words should be written. 1 page edited. Of course, each of them can be explained in more detail, but I hope you get the gist. The idea is to begin the achievement cycle and take action that will move you closer to your main goal. Now, goals are essential in video games because of the second essential component, which means that advancement is apparent. Games clearly demonstrate your progress by showing you that the experience bar is filling up. It never mentions you're 0.7% on your way to level 100 though. This would be uninspiring. Instead, it indicates that you are 70% of the way to level 2. You have the essential drive to keep moving forward because of this apparent progress. It's quite simple to justify continuing to play a bit longer in order to unlock the following level before checking out. It's even enhanced when you have multiple progress bars that fill up simultaneously as you play the game. Using Skyrim as an example, by progressing through the game normally, you acquire experience in all of your skills, including melee weapons and archery, such that by the time you reach level 3 in one skill, you're practically at level 5. This gives you the gratification of studying and improving not only one skill but several skills at once. This serves to remind you that you are always on the verge of finishing something, which encourages you to play more. However, in real life, improvement is frequently not as evident, so you must actively work to make it visible. Simply keeping track of your everyday actions is, in my opinion, one of the finest methods to achieve that. Make sure to keep track of everything you do each day to move closer to your goals. Write down the 500 words you wrote for your book. Make a note if you ran 3 miles during your training. Record your study time, such as 1 hour. If you avoided Starbucks and saved $10, write it down. By doing this, you may make your progress, or lack thereof, actually apparent, and you'll be able to tell if you're making progress towards your main goals or smaller ones. And you'll be more inspired to keep going forward if you realize that you're getting close to one of them, simply so you may achieve that goal. Now, the third critical element makes it crucial to be aware of your development. Games do this by rewarding you for your work. When you reach a certain level or finish a task, you frequently receive some kind of reward, and these benefits encourage you to finish your assignments. If you didn't receive anything out of killing a dragon, would you even bother? Most likely not. However, since there's a reward, you continue to complete those tasks. In real life, rewards are frequently one of the most effective motivators since they cause your brain to release a lot of dopamine as you anticipate receiving them. In the back of your mind, you know that if you complete the task at hand, let's take studying as an example, you get to enjoy a reward of your choice guilt-free, which can easily motivate you to push through the challenge. However, it must be recognized that in video games, the reward always gives something back to you. You might earn a better sword if you defeat an adversary, enabling you to take on larger foes. In essence, the prize you win improves your gaming experience and encourages you to keep playing, and a lot of us make mistakes with this. Yes, we deserve a prize if we follow a healthy diet for a week in a row and visit the gym 5 times during that time. But most of the time, we act in a way that undermines the advancement we achieved rather than receiving a reward that benefits us in return. While lying on the couch, we treat ourselves by devouring the entire cake, which is not a wise decision, if you think about it. Imagine finishing a quest in the game and instead of leveling up, your stats are penalized. It doesn't really happen, but in reality, we frequently act in this manner. What do we do with the $500 we managed to save? We treat ourselves to something like a brand new phone that we don't actually need. Instead, we ought to put that money towards a resource that will pay us back. We will be able to earn and save even more money as a result. You may also reward your constancy with new running shoes if, like me, you enjoy running. Running becomes easy, and the habit is strengthened with this type of reward. Find a reward that benefits you in return by considering your personal situation, or, at the very least, make sure it doesn't hinder your advancement as it normally does. However, you might have noticed that gaming rewards aren't always the same. It's not always a better blade. Other times, it might be a new spell, a stronger piece of armor, etc. This gets me to the fourth important game mechanic: novelty and variety. Good games are constantly surprising us with new content. It could be new adversaries, new areas that can be unlocked, or just new cosmetics. Because our brains appreciate variety, an activity will remain appealing and fulfilling as long as it offers something fresh to stimulate us. Imagine having to play the same level repeatedly rather than discovering something new in the game. Most people wouldn't find it enjoyable. Pretty fast, we would grow weary of performing the same thing and desire to stop. And in our everyday lives, it's the same. It helps if we can add something fresh to the activity if we want to remain with it long term. Think back to your first day at work, if you have one. Most likely, rather than feeling monotonous, the job seems exciting. There are a lot of new things to learn and a lot of new people to meet. However, after a year, when all the novelty has worn off, the job likely turned monotonous and tedious. Because it has become ordinary, there is no longer anything novel to experience. It resembles playing through the same level of a game 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Since you already know what to expect, there isn't much to look forward to. I certainly recommend having a routine in life, but it's also beneficial to have some variety within that pattern. Therefore, if you consistently complete the same tasks, see if you can take on a different project to mix things up a bit. Ideally, it should be something new to you that presents a unique challenge. While you might not be able to directly alter the way you go about with your work, you can always add new elements that are still pertinent to it and within your control, like making friends with a coworker you don't usually talk to, possibly rearranging your desk, or perhaps you simply eat lunch somewhere else. You can see that it doesn't need to be a significant adjustment. It also doesn't have to be long-term. Simply having fresh experiences occasionally is the goal. By including a new exercise in your fitness plan, you can spice it up. Alternatively, if you're still in school, consider looking for an alternative study space. Simply find a method to slightly alter your daily routine. The fifth and last essential component of games is their constant challenge. The human brain enjoys tackling and conquering challenges. However, the degree of difficulty must correspond to your level of expertise. Otherwise, you won't enjoy them and won't want to complete them. In other words, the challenge shouldn't be too difficult. Starting at level 1, you don't immediately take on the largest and baddest boss. Since it wouldn't be too challenging for you to succeed, you would always lose. Furthermore, you wouldn't want to keep playing since it would be too difficult. Games intentionally start you out with simpler obstacles because of this, those obstacles that you can actually conquer. But as you improve, the game's difficulty also rises. Otherwise, you wouldn't want to keep playing if you made progress but the difficulty remained the same. If you can just easily destroy everything in your path, it's no fun. The game would be too simple, which would cause you to get bored very quickly. So that you can genuinely feel proud of yourself when you succeed at a challenge and get that delicious, sweet dopamine reward, it must feel at least somewhat challenging. However, we hardly ever confront the ideal challenges in real life. Instead, we are either overwhelmed or bored by them the majority of the time. It's likely that something is above your current level of proficiency if it feels overwhelming and you can't force yourself to accomplish it. At first, you must step back and go cautiously. Divide up the large task into manageable parts. Then, you should work on each of these components separately, beginning with a simpler one. By doing so, you can simultaneously increase momentum and decrease difficulty. If something seems too simple, make it more difficult. The simple activities should ideally be avoided, but occasionally, they must be completed. Personally, I find that setting time constraints on them makes them more challenging. I set a deadline for myself and work to complete the assignment before the time expires. This makes me look for ways to be more effective, which also helps me finish things more quickly in the future. I'm still doing the same dull thing, but because of the time crunch, it's harder and more enjoyable. Try to adjust the difficulty to your level of expertise. Whenever you can, you'll notice that you'll be more engrossed and the activity will be more engaging. You presumably have a better idea of what makes video games so addicting by this point. You may have noticed that the game doesn't truly draw us in as much if certain components are missing. Of course, in addition to the 5 I've listed, there may be more elements that contribute to the addictive nature of games. The social component, which fosters a sense of community and rivalry, could be one example. Another one might be the enjoyable background music. Alternatively, the game might provide us a sensation of control and independence. But since role-playing games are the ones that are most like our lives, I didn't want to concentrate on every single component. Instead, I wanted to give priority to the ones that are most common. It should also be remembered that video games use all those components very quickly, causing dopamine release to occur often. In fact, they happen so frequently that our normal everyday routines can't keep up with them. The dopamine trail should still be duplicated though. In fact, it's even more crucial that you put it into practice, because if you don't, you'll merely be drawn to where the dopamine is present. So be careful to include those 5 aspects into the parts of your life that are most significant to you. By doing this, you'll be able to take charge of your productivity and accomplish whatever it is you set out to do. Let me just say that you're wonderful if you've watched this far. If you can't wait to get started with your very first quest, be sure to like this video, smash the subscribe button, and turn on all notifications for more amazing content. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time,